Hey guys, this is Ginger Ale here. We'll call myself Ginger Ale today, I guess, with the Xbox Boomer channel here on YouTube. And this is another story that I want to tell you about today. Um, and I have to give you a couple disclaimers before we get started. So the disclaimers are basically that I have some things in this story, and within my life that I have to keep private. Okay. It's for my own safety and it's for just, privacy's sake. Because there are people that I am beholden to in this world. And I don't want to get pee-pee slapped. I want to share authentic stuff with you guys. For the people who actually want to listen and want to hear about the things I have to say. But I don't wanna have any, pee-pee slapping going on in my life, where I get, some kind of negative outcome. So that's the reason for the, vague anonymity, and just like the shadiness, behind some of these videos, I guess. Like I have to keep some details private or whatever. And that's just part of it. Because I mean, keep in mind, this is on a public site. This is on, freaking YouTube.com, where any, schmo can just click on this and listen to my stories. So just keep that in mind. So it's not to be rude to you guys or foul or anything, but that is the reasoning. And the second disclaimer is that there are trolls on the internet. So this video is for the one authentic person who wants to listen out of 10. This is not for the 9 out of 10 trolls. So just, I mean, instead of posting like, hateful, garbage in the comments or whatever, just click off of the video, please. I mean, I don't want to interact with you. I'm not going to feed into that. Um, but yeah, if you are genuine out there and you want to have a conversation, or excuse me, what have you, just drop your comment or whatever down below and we'll talk a little bit. Um, but yeah, so today, what I have to talk about, it's actually a very intimate topic for me, because these are probably some of my most profound experiences in life that I've really ever had. Some of the most visceral experiences that I've ever had. Visceral meaning like real experiences that like I can still look back on and see like with my own eyes. Like a lot of these things I'm going to tell you about, if I think hard about them, I can actually like kind of revisit those memories, behind my two eyes. So they are very personal experiences. But I'm gonna try my best through using words to describe, the things I experience to you, and it's very very hard to do on this particular subject. Um, so yeah, this story time kind of video, we're talking about drugs. I mean, plain and simple, we're talking about LSD. Now, if you're not aware, LSD is I believe it's called lysergic acid. And it's it's a drug. It's not known, societally as a good thing. I mean, especially before Joe Rogan came around with his podcast, and talked about doing LSD. Um, people would pee-pee slap you for that shit. It was taboo to talk about, doing LSD, even if it was out of a good place in your heart, even if it was like out of soul searching or trying to find answers to life's questions. People didn't care, and that's something to know. Now, I have to also tell you, before I tell you about the experiences I've had in my life, um, I am not a drug guy, okay? The stories I'm gonna tell you that have happened to me in life have happened years and years ago. Okay, so I am not a druggie. I don't go out doing drugs in my free time. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke pot. I don't do any drugs anymore. I don't even drink, really. I mean, maybe, once a year, once every 2 years, I will have a drink on Christmas with my wife or something. Um, but yeah, I don't do substances anymore because I really don't. find a need to, and we'll talk about that. Um, but I wanted to talk about this video because it was weighing heavy on my heart just because it's something that you can't authentically talk about, like in the workplace or in public at the grocery store. And it's funny because people will come up to you and want to talk to you about a lot of useless shit in life. People will come up to you and say, "Hey Bill, how's the weather going?" "Oh good, Chuck, did you see the football game?" It's like kind of like not really a wonder of why society is crumbling and decaying as it is, because people don't like the way our society is designed. You aren't even encouraged to talk about the things that are like important or that people want to know about. You can't talk about like, "Oh, I was soul searching and I tried this substance and I tried to find God and, I this was my experience." And you can't talk about like religion or, just anything of substance. You aren't allowed to talk about in society, I feel like, because it's taboo. You put on on a job application, they ask you like, "Oh, do you do any drugs? Have you ever done any drugs?" They ask you on government paperwork, if you want to buy a 22 rifle to shoot squirrels. "Have you done any drugs before?" They ask you shit like that. You know, I mean, anywhere you go nowadays, right? And like I said, I'm not a drug guy, right? But I have made some decisions in my past, and I'm gonna be honest about them. Now, as a legal disclaimer, okay, this is the last disclaimer, and then we'll get into it. Um, Legally speaking, this video is all a made up story made by AI. This is not a real story. Wink, wink. You get what I'm saying? I did not do any of these things, but this is going to be a set of stories that are generated by AI that are told in a first person perspective. Okay. Wink, wink. So that's the disclaimer. So if you got something negative to say, there's your disclaimer. Um, but yeah, we'll roll into it. So, I had a buddy, uh, I mean, when I was a little kid, not a little kid. I'm sorry, I'm not doing justice to this. When I was a teenager, I had done some other things. I had done some drinking. I had smoked some pot. Being a rebellious little teenager. A lot of kids do. A lot of kids run around with their friends and do kind of hooligan stuff, and that's generally harmless. I mean, it's not a great thing, like, to depend on any substance, of course, or to want any substance, in my opinion, looking back in life. Um, but, at the time, I had been exposed to, drinking beer, drinking liquor, smoking some weed, with my high school friends, and, everything went well. It wasn't problematic or anything. I mean, I still did everything I needed to do, no problems in life. And, I had a friend that was very close to me in high school, and he moved away. So one day we were best friends, in life and playing video games together. And then the next day he just blipped out of existence. His mother just moved him across the country, and that was that. I never heard from him again. So I had gone through other jobs and stuff and moved to different areas in life after my friend moved away. And I mean, I didn't think too much of it. I mean, I was sad about it, but it is what it is. And that friend, after I was, in a totally new area with a totally new, purpose, um, he reached out to me after high school and we talked a little bit, and the conversation basically steered towards like the meaning of life and our beliefs on God and religion, and just like what we had experienced since we hadn't been best friends anymore. And you know I told him that I was having a very hard time in life. At the time, I didn't have my faith in God, And I really wasn't sure what to think because I had a lot of trauma from high school that I was dealing with, a lot of friends because I moved across the country. There was a lot of friends that I had left behind, and I wasn't ready to leave them behind. And I had to abruptly. And my friend told me, "Well, I know something that can help you out." And he told me, "Hey, have you ever tried LSD?" And I was like, "Well, not really." And he's like, "Well, it's this drug that it was real popular back in the 60s. There was the whole hippie movement of like, people were hippies sleeping out on the lawn in tents and making love on the grass and, kind of just loving each other." And he said, "Hey, I love LSD. I take a lot of LSD. I have some, why don't I mail some to you?" And I thought about it, and he was a very close friend, and I trusted him quite a bit. And so I knew he wouldn't give me anything that was like, not good for me. Like he wouldn't give me like fentanyl or some crazy shit nowadays that kids have. So I told him, I was like, "Well, I've never taken anything before except smoking, weed, marijuana." And you know, he told me, he was like, "Well, yeah, it's gonna be a little different than marijuana." But because I couldn't smoke marijuana at that particular point in my life, and I really, like I said, I'm straight edge now, so I'm just being open and honest about taking drugs. Um, but he said, "Yeah, you can take this LSD because they can only test it with a spinal tap, employers and things like that." Um, and you can't really, it gets out of your system right away. So I was like, "Well, okay, that sounds reasonable." Because in 2024, just for record keeping, because I make all my videos with the future in mind of trying to, have them be relevant for, either people 10 years from now that are going back looking for information with good intentions or, just different record keeping. I try to be, open and honest, um, but yeah, so my buddy, he he ends up sending me this little tablet of LSD hidden in the back of a birthday card. Like one of those birthday cards that might have like a some kind of special feature to it where it's kind of like bulged out so you could almost hide something in the card itself. And it was wrapped with aluminum foil. Um, and it was a very small, they call it like a tab as far as I know. So it would be like a paper tablet of, this drug. And so what they do, as far as I know, the people who make this stuff, they take a little piece of paper. I'm not sure if it's special paper or what it is. Like I said, I'm not a drug guy. This is just like kind of a small period in my life where I had a couple experiences. And they put with like an eyedropper, like a little dot of, liquid LSD on this tablet, and it gets absorbed into the paper. And then, you would put the tablet of LSD on your tongue or underneath your tongue. Um, and then, it would go into your body and you would get the effects. And so, my friend he sends me this LSD in this little foil, envelope or this little foil it's like he packaged it up so it's like nice and flat, this little piece of aluminum foil. And I was saving it for a special occasion. And my friend told me because I had thought it was going to be maybe like smoking marijuana, which is fairly tame experience. Um and my friend said, "Hey, just so you know, like, this is a lot different than marijuana. Like, you're going to meet God." And, I grew up in the Protestant church a little bit, like here and there. Like, I didn't go all the time, but a couple times a year I went in the church. And, I always heard about Jesus, but I didn't know enough about him. and I had never met him. So I wanted to visibly see Jesus. I wanted to meet God. I wanted to know, like, ask him questions and know what he was about and know why he created us and just know like everything about him. And so I was on board with it. I said, yeah, like, yes, yes, if I can meet God, I will take this. Like, absolutely. And and so that special day came around, and you know, I ended up just taking it out of the foil and I put it on my tongue. And then I think I swallowed the tablet after it had sat on my tongue for a minute. Because, like I said, it gets into your saliva and then it gets into your body. And my friend had told me a little information on this drug before I took it. He said, it takes about like 40 minutes to kick in, 30, 40 minutes. And you're gonna basically have to endure this for 12 hours. So, you better get your mind right because the hippies use an old saying about taking drugs. They say it's all about the set and the setting. So like the set is meaning like uh your mindset before you take the drug and during. So, you want to be very happy or like calm or peaceful when you take the drug. And then you want to setting, they mean like you want to take the drug in a safe place around like safe people, in a comfortable environment. And so I tried my best. I had a friend who could come check in on me for a couple hours while I took the drug. So I told him, yes, please, like please come check on me, while I do that. Um, and he did, which, thank you, for that friend out there. I mean, I haven't heard from him in a very long time, but thank you for that. Because like I said, this is many, many, many years ago. And, when you take this drug, because I want this to, I want to say I do not want to glorify drug use. I do not want to encourage drug use. This video is strictly for, like educational purposes, and it is for people who want to like study the drug or understand the experience and who can't, either because they don't want to take the drug themselves, which is totally fine. You don't have to take it. I don't encourage you to take it actually. And then, I do think it is absolutely ridiculous for research purposes that, the way American laws are in 2024, any psychedelic drug, like, magic mushrooms or, psilocybin mushrooms, as they're called formally, or, LSD, those drugs are scheduled so high by I believe it's the DEA in their, categorization or classification, that people cannot actually study those drugs and the potential benefits or the effects. Um, and I always hear about, people who have PTSD, who have went through like traumatic experiences, like childhood abuse, or like, some type of like military, traumatic experience. They're not able to, have that as an option of like, understanding that as a potential like, oh, maybe if my life is really bad right now, maybe I could do this to try something different. And I think it's really silly that we can't even have a discussion because, the topic of taking drugs is so taboo in life, um, that we can't even talk about, potentially using LSD to, help people or psychedelics, people who have had like, been rape victims or people who have, had some type of like endured a house fire, or seen like their friends get killed in front of them. Because I think there might be something to it, but I'm not sure. And so I just want to leave this up for, like I said, people kind of interested in the drug for those reasons, like not for recreational reasons at all, like at all. That's not something I'm condoning. Um, but I will say, um, so I took this drug and I put it on my tongue, and it was during a special event. So I was all alone, and I actually had to stay up all night to have the time to be able to do this experience of taking LSD. Because that was the only time I was going to be able to do it, was if I stayed up all night. And so I did. To get the extra time, I did. And I don't remember I remember it kicking in a little sooner than I thought, because my friend had told me that, like, 30 to 40 minutes in is when it was going to really start getting intense, and I was gonna start seeing visions, and I was gonna start seeing, different shapes and maybe animals or people, and, 20 minutes came in, about 20 minutes went by, and I started feeling it. And I remember in a frantic, calling, hurry, I called my friend who said he would come check on me. And he said, yeah, I'll be by in about like 40, 50 minutes. And 20 minutes went by, and I was already feeling it. And I called him on the phone before it got full, blown experience mode, and I said, "Hey, like, please, buddy, like, I really need you to come by, or like right now, because it's kicking in sooner than I thought." And so he said, "Okay, I'll come by." And at first, like, he hung out for a few minutes, and I didn't feel much. I felt a little creepy. I felt like something was coming, like something big was coming, but I didn't know what. Like, that was part of the anxiety of just taking a substance I had never taken before. And then I remember when it hit me, like it hit me out of nowhere, like a freaking truck. Um, people, when if you've heard like the rumors and the hearsay about taking LSD, um, people usually talk about what you see. So they usually talk about, like, oh, these green leprechauns came out of my closet, or like, oh, I saw these aliens, dude, and they took me on their spaceship. What I want to get across to you is that in my personal experience, it was not about what you see, okay? It's about what you feel. And so, it's not about your actual, like, sight and your vision, like what you're seeing in your eyes. It's about your emotions in your nerves. So, if I'm gonna set a tempo for you, because I was explaining this to a buddy earlier, and it was the best way to describe it. So the tempo of boom, 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 that fast is how fast your emotions are changing, and they are changing severely. So, like, how you can feel, like, happy, sad, like, depressed to the point where you wanna kill yourself, and then, maybe, like, excited, like, you will feel in literally, it was very crazy because in 1 second's time, like 1 full second, like 1 Mississippi, you could feel the same, 5 emotions cycle 80 times. Like, you could feel in that 1 second the happiest you've ever been in your life, where you could die in that moment and be totally at peace with the world, and then you can feel as depressed as you've ever been on, like, the worst day of your life, where, like, your family member dies, to the point where you wanna kill yourself. Like, that's how it felt for me, and I distinctly remember that. It wasn't about what I saw, it was about what I felt, and those emotions went on for, like, 10 hours, something like that, like a very large amount of time. Just boom, 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 the different emotions cycling in my nerves and in my body. Now, as that went on, that my vision was shifting, almost like it was like, if you smoked marijuana, how, like, your vision kind of shifts, like, over and over every couple moments. It was like that, but with the intense feelings rapidly cycling. over and over and over. Like super, super mad, super, super happy, super, super depressed, like just instantly, like constantly, boom, boom, boom. And you know, uh, my friend had to leave, and so even though he checked on me, he did really good. I think we might have ordered a pizza to try to calm me down a little bit. Um, and I mean, I had just really went, I mean, to intense feelings in my mind and in my body. And so I think he really tried to calm me down by getting me a pizza, which did not help at all. And then he had to leave because he had to go to work. And and so I was there alone. Um, well, I did have someone sleeping in the room, but they were not conscious. They were asleep the whole time, and then they eventually left too. But as far as being present in the experience, I was very alone and just feeling these cycling emotions. And I looked at two things. I looked at a tube of toothpaste that was sitting out on a desk that I had. And I was staring at, if you can imagine, like pressed toothpaste from the store. It was like that. And the toothpaste, as I was staring at it, because I felt myself slipping away from reality. And I figured if I could focus on one thing, and just really focus on it, I wouldn't lose reality. Like people call it ego death. Like you lose your sense of self eventually when the drug peaks and you just don't know who you are or where you are. And that was really scary to me when that happened. So I looked at this tube of toothpaste for dear life because I thought something bad was going to happen if I went, if I left myself. And so I'm staring at this toothpaste, and as I'm doing it, the toothpaste defied gravity. So it was laying flat on my desk, and if you cut like the toothpaste in half, you have like the back half of the tube and then the front half. The front half bent at a 90-degree angle while it was attached to the like 45-degree angle that was laying on my desk. And it was so confusing because I was staring at it and I'm staring at it perfectly straight in my vision, but like half my vision had bent at like a 90-degree angle. And you know, I looked over around that time to my I had like a clothing hanger, like a plastic, I think it was a black clothing hanger on my doorknob of my closet. And I looked at this clothing hanger and it did the same thing. Like I was afraid that, I don't know why I thought about this, but someone had told me a horrible story before I tried LSD about how this is what they claimed, not me. They told me that the devil came out of underneath their kitchen sink and punched them in the face. And that story horrified me. I was very worried about having an encounter with the devil when I took LSD. And that put me obviously in a bad mood, a bad mindset. Um, but I had stared at this hanger because I was very scared that this hanger was going to like shapeshift into, the devil or something like that. And it didn't. I kept staring at this, I don't know for how long, because I had no perception of time or, reality. And I stared at this hanger, this plastic clothing hanger, and it did the same thing where the right half of this clothing hanger bent at a 90-degree angle and the left half just stayed normal. And it was so confusing. And, within probably just a few minutes, it's hard to tell because you have no perception of time, or at least I didn't. I was in another reality and I didn't even know it. And it's not like, oh, I didn't, like I got sucked out of my body or anything like that. It was just, I was looking at the tube of toothpaste I was looking at the clothing hanger. I was kind of scared and anxious about this devil thought. And I was watching, my vision shift to like the 90-degree angle and the 45-degree angle and whatever. And then out of nowhere, I'm not even a person anymore. I'm just like conscious, you know. I'm not I didn't have a name. I didn't have an identity. It was I think it's what the hippies would call ego death. That's a term if you start researching this drug that people use. And and yeah, so, I was totally out of my body. I didn't know where my body was or what it was doing, but the only thing I could see, I was like sucked into my mind. Like my physical consciousness was sucked into my head and into my mind. And all I could see was like a cartoon version of the moon. So it was a very like if you think of the video game Cuphead, it was a very cartoony, like a rendition or a drawing of the moon. And the moon had a hole in it. And so through the center of the moon, there was a railroad track. And, it was all very like 1920s cartoon style, like an original Mickey Mouse film and in black and white. And there was this choo-choo train on the train tracks, but the choo-choo train was like a character, like in an old Mickey Mouse film. Like it had a smile. It was grinning with teeth, and it was staring at me with these big eyeballs. And the choo-choo train, kept going around this train track, and through the moon, over and over and over again. And it felt like there was no time, there was no, perception of anything. Like, you couldn't count seconds, you couldn't count minutes. It was just that was eternity. In the moment, it's so hard to explain. Um, but it was very confusing, but it felt like, my body didn't exist anymore. Everyone on Earth didn't exist. There was no me. It was just this moon and this choo-choo train going round and round and round and round for eternity. And um, without I heard speaking, but it was without words. It was not like a verbal, like it was not the perception that you get here on Earth of like hearing noise in your ears. It was it was well, maybe you don't know, but it was like almost like a language that does not even exist here on Earth. But the message was clear, okay? And this message, I'm not supporting this, but this is something that confused me for a little bit in life. That I had to really sort out my feelings on religion, and I had to really sort out my world beliefs after this experience because it was so profound. And nowadays I will spoil it. I am a Christian. I do love Jesus, and that's my worldview. Okay, so I don't believe this. This did not change my perspective, but I'm telling you in the moment of the drug what I felt. Um, while I was watching this choo-choo train go in the moon, out of the moon, in the moon, out of the moon, um, this language told me that it's okay. The choo-choo train going in the moon and out of the moon is life, and life perpetuates eternally. So, life here in the universe keeps going forever and ever and ever, and that's okay. And then it told me um, all life on Earth and in the universe is one consciousness, and all the animals, all the humans, all the frogs, all the butterflies are one, and that's okay. And then, at some point, the vision of this moon and this choo-choo train just kind of disappeared, and I was sucked out of it instantly, like without even realizing it. And I was back in my body, coming down from this high of the drug. And, like I said, I don't believe that is my worldview, but that is something, though, that is, I believe they call it like the one consciousness theory. That is something that I never felt in my life. Like, I never believed that. I never thought about that. I never talked about it. And when I took this drug, I don't know why, but that's what I felt and that's what I saw. Like, oh, everybody is one and all these animals are, together. All these people are together and it's okay. And I don't know why I felt that or why I thought that or why that's what I was told by this voice. And it was very confusing after the experience. Um, I remember because that was the peak of my experience. That was the peak of what I call the ego death or what the hippies call ego death. And I thought about that for a long time. I was like, what the hell did I just envision? Like, I thought I was gonna smoke some pot, you know? I thought I was gonna, my friend just sent me this fun little, drug, this recreational thing, because I was younger. I was a dumb young kid, and it was not a fun, little experience. Um, and it was very profound. Like I said, it's the most intense emotions I've ever felt in my entire life alive on this earth. And that's not necessarily good or bad thing. It's just it is what it is. Um, and my theory is that LSD is so intense. This is not proven. This is my theory. When you take a drug like LSD or LSD, I believe it gives the user such intense emotions that it gives them a small amount of PTSD from the experience like a post traumatic stress, and that's how people are able to like revisit those memories and go back to them in their mind and kind of think about them because I know it was a very intense you know experience. And uh and so that was the first time I had taken it, and I remember being very confused afterwards and not knowing what to believe other than just to like love people. Like there was an afterglow effect that I think they call it, where I just for like a week straight, I wanted to love everybody. Random strangers. I wanted to talk to them and I wanted to kiss them on the head and give them a big old hug. And I, as a young man, I was very confused of what I had experienced because I didn't meet God. I didn't see what I thought I was gonna see. I didn't see like dragons flying around or like bright colors. Like I didn't see any of that. Like everything people told me was kind of like bullshit. And so I decided one last time, and this is the last time I really took any type of substance like this. And like I said, this is also many, many years ago. So this was like a couple months after, uh, somewhere like that. I had the first experience. I had acquired what I was told was LSD again. I got one other tablet, one small, like single use, one person tablet for something like my friend had given me the first one for free because he really wanted me to have that experience. So he had just given me that for free. And then I believe that the going cost at the time of the second one was roughly about about $5, I think. It was not very expensive for this experience. I do remember that. Um, and so I had one of these tablets, And, I'm not gonna say how I acquired it or anything like that, but it was not through my friend. Okay, so, to be honest with you, I mean, I feel pretty confident that the first time I took it was LSD, but the second one, I mean, it was I was told it was LSD by the person I got it from, but it very easily could have had something else in it. I mean, I'm not sure because they do have testing kits for these drugs. But I was young and dumb and scared of things, so I didn't test anything I put in my body, unfortunately. But like I said, as far as I know, the second time was also LSD. And so I took this in a closet of a house, and it was like a walk-in closet where I had a mattress on the ground, and I had to be quiet because there were other people in the house who would not be happy to know I was taking LSD. Because like I said, in our culture, any type of drug or, any type of mind-altering substance, you cannot even talk about it. You cannot even explore it as an option for anything or anybody. And I think that is a human being is foolish. And this is somebody, like I said, I'm not a drug guy. Um, I'm never gonna take LSD again in my life, you know? I'm just not. I don't need to. I had my experience and I can see it with two eyes, and that's good for me. And and so um, when I took this drug, I was told after I had the first experience, I asked people, I said, why did I not meet God? Why did I not get the answers that I wanted? Because everybody had told me, like, oh, the LSD, like, it's going to help you, figure things out in life. Because I was a lost young man. I had several women that at the time, I was interested in, and, a girlfriend that I dated a little bit in high school. Um, she and I abruptly, you know, had split up and I moved across the country without even like saying goodbye to her. And then I had several friends, I had to just write off, you know, in my life, moving across the country, unfortunately. So I had a lot of loose ends at the time that didn't have any closure. And, uh, And so, I took this drug the second time, and my life, like I said, it was just a mess, and I needed answers. So I came up with like some questions. I forgot what they were, and I just was in a rough place. I really wanted some female companionship. I wanted to meet God and really believe in Him and know God. And I wanted to get closure with my friends and this girlfriend that I had. And I took it, and I can't remember how long it took to kick in. I don't know if it was about the same maybe as the first time, but because of the upheaval in my life, I immediately felt horrible. Like I immediately felt even worse than I already did. And I felt horrible in life because nothing was certain. I didn't really have a path or anything. And you know, I I just felt like as soon as the drug had started to really set in, as all the lights were off in the house, everybody was sleeping, I had to be quiet, I had no forms of like entertainment or socialization. I felt like I was on fire. My nerves, because remember, I told you the first time, the drug is not about what you see so much. A bulk of it is what you feel, in my opinion, in your nerves and in your body. And my nerves this time, the entire experience almost felt like I was physically burning in hell. It felt like I was on fire, and it was very excruciating pain. in my just everywhere, my entire body. And I wanted to cry, and I may have cried. I probably did. Um and I just could not control my emotions. And I instantly, when the drugs started to set in, I did not want to be high anymore. Um, Now social media was out by this time, and I did have, several of these friends online that I was struggling with. And, I looked online at these friends, on their profiles and things, and the drug got really weird because I was staring at, these were all young teenagers, right? These were not adults. These were like, teenage kids, and I'm looking at all their things online, and they start aging as I'm high on the drug. I'm looking at like my friends, and they're no longer teenagers or young adults. They're like 40-year-old men or like 50-year-old men with like, aging hair, and they have wives and kids. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like I was there was something with time perception to where, time was like accelerating incredibly fast, and I was just losing my grip on reality. Like I was trying to grab at time, but it was just going way too fast for me to grab it. And I just was trying to tell this drug, like, "Stop, like, you can't let me go yet, like, I don't have closure, I need to get these friends back and spend time with them while we're young. I need to get this girlfriend, I need to make amends with her, I need to, you know, contact her, we need to figure something out here." And it just kinda slipped away, and I didn't even have a social media, um for the girlfriend who broke up with me, or we split up and whatever. But um, I remember looking at my device that I was using to, look at these people, and I was seeing them all age, and the web page was scrolling faster than anybody could scroll with like a mouse or a keyboard or anything. It was scrolling faster than you can ever imagine. Um, and I couldn't stop it. And within that fast scrolling, I saw an aging picture or a couple aging pictures of that ex-girlfriend who broke up with me. And, she had like aging, dark hair that had like aged old. She had like crow's feet on her face. She was happy in the pictures, but she was just old as an old bag. And she had kids, and she had a husband now, and there was wedding photos, and this is not reality. Like this was something that the drug was doing, not not like, actual photos I was seeing on the internet. And I just got so depressed that, I mean, the drug made me feel like I was so depressed that I could like kill myself. I mean, obviously I didn't, and I wasn't going to, but that's how it makes you feel in that moment. Like you have no control over those emotions almost. And when I seen that, I seen the very hurtful, pictures of, all my friends had aged and grown old without me in their lives. And this girl that I at the time was dating, she had grown old and forgotten about me. You know, I mean, I just didn't matter to anybody. And I immediately didn't want to be high anymore. I didn't want to have this experience. I wanted to cut it short. And I ran out of the closet, not literally, but like as fast as I reasonably could without waking anybody up. And I hopped in the shower in the bathroom. And I turned the water on, and I was hoping that, if the water could just spray my face and I could just, you know, stay awake. then, maybe, uh, I wouldn't have to go any further down this rabbit hole. Maybe I could just force myself kind of out of this spiral that I'm in. And it just didn't work. Like, I mean, I tried to, look at myself in the bathroom mirror. I tried to, get water on my face and just like do some movements. I thought if I walked around the house and the bathroom a little bit, I could just snap out of it, and I couldn't. I mean, like my friend had told me, the experience is 12 hours whether you want it or not. Like you're gonna buckle in for the whole ride when you take it. Um, and so, I remember I did end up coming down at some point from the experience, and then I just fell asleep on the mattress in the closet, listening to some music. And it was very stressful. It was very painful because, like I said, almost the whole time I felt like I was burning in hell and my body was on fire. And I woke up the next day after I had slept in because I had just slept in on accident. And for the next 2 weeks, again, I wasn't sure what to believe, but I knew that, I had an afterglow effect that everybody I met, I just wanted to love them and hug them and give them a kiss on the cheek and just make them feel good, even random strangers. And I remember thinking like, "Oh," even because it was traumatic, don't get me wrong, like, it's like the same experience as, like, getting punched in the face by a full-grown gorilla for, like, 8 hours, or, like, burning in hell, literally, in a cage. I mean, it was traumatic, and I told myself I never wanted to do it again, but I remember having the distinct thought, when I was young, when I took this, because like I said, I was very young. This is not something I'm running around doing nowadays or I'm gonna ever do again. But I remember thinking, if more people could just try this and do it, you know, the world would be a better place because people would treat each other better. Um, and I don't know if I still would believe that or if it stands true, but in the immediate, week or two after, that's how I felt. The effects had lingered definitely for about 2 weeks. Um, and I do remember, I will say, because don't glorify this, I'm telling you, it took me a long time to really get my beliefs right again and fix kind of like my mental state after taking this stuff the 2 times that I did. Um, you know, I remember thinking after I took it both times, like, am I gonna be normal again? Like, am I ever gonna, because like just for the next couple weeks, something in your vision is just a little off. Like something wasn't quite right. Like, like the drug, because I mean they do say it stays in your spine for a little bit, so maybe that was it. Maybe I was just getting lingering effects. Um, because it's very interesting if you haven't looked up the origin story of LSD. I believe it was a man in, like colonial times or some I can't remember when, but I think his name was Albert Hoffman, and he accidentally got high on a like a bicycle, I think it was, and he had to pedal home because I want to say he was like a scientist or something like that. I'd have to look the story up again, but it's just interesting because it's an interesting story of how the drug initially, came out because I believe it came from a plant. I think it was called ergot. It's hard to remember because I looked into all this stuff and did my research before I took it when I was very young. And ultimately the thing that pushed me into taking it was because my friend had convinced me and told me, no one's ever died from overdosing on LSD, which I don't know if that's true or not true or whatnot, but I will say your mental state and your mentality, um, it is severely affected by this drug. And like I said, I'm good nowadays, perfectly fine. Never gonna do that again because, I seen it, I experienced it. It was an interesting journey for sure. Um, didn't quite get that closure that I wanted. Because everybody said, oh, ask it questions, like the drug will talk to you. And they say similar things like nowadays about, like, I think the drug ibogaine that they're starting to give to people to treat PTSD and traumatic experiences. Um, but I think some people would get probably more value out of it than others. Um, But yeah, it was a very confusing experience, and it really changed my worldview for a couple weeks or a couple months at a time. And yeah, I think as a free American and someone who was created by God with free will, I think we have to let Americans and people in the world decide for themselves if they want to try it or if they want to research it. I think it's very, very silly to basically not, just say like, oh, at work and in society, at like the store, at Walmart, you can't talk about this stuff. Like, I think that's such a irresponsible and just childish. Like, meh, I pooped in the play box, so you can't play in it. Like, I think that's such a freaking childish way of looking at it. Like any substance, really. Um, And, I'm not pro drug or nothing. Like I said, I'm straight edge, man. Um, but I do stand up for other people's free will. And I will say, because you probably clicked on this video because you were thinking about trying this drug or what have you. Um, I put this out for research purposes, but I'm saying, I truly mean to you, because this is a very intimate experience that I'm gonna probably have for the rest of my life. Um, it is the most intense thing I have ever felt. Maybe the most traumatic thing I have ever felt in my life. And like I said, I like to use the word visceral because it's visceral, it's real. Like you can't escape it. It's in your emotions. Like you're gonna feel it. You're gonna feel every second of being on that drug, and you're gonna lose track of time in those experiences. Um, at least that's what happened to me. I'm just one person, but I feel like this is kind of like my stories that I'll share with you, with those curious people out there. Um, but yeah, you know I just can't stress enough. I'm not a druggie. I'm not gonna take drugs again. This is just because I was a dumb kid and I had a lot of questions about God. Nowadays I was able to find God without having to take any type of substance. And I'm perfectly happy with my relationship with Jesus. Um, but that the guy, I guess, I it has raised some questions in my faith because I thought like, well, what is this drug? If you have feelings of like I had the consciousness, questions after I took it, and like these, life lessons of like, oh, like your friends are gonna live their lives, with you just blowing off in the wind in the distance. And part of me, because one, if you're spiritual, if you have any faith, right, in God, I'm not saying this is right or wrong because I don't have an opinion, but one interesting thing people have told me is that like, oh, drugs like this have demonic, you know, parts to them. And so, or like they are of demonic origin. And so they're meant to distort your reality and to tell you lies to drift you further away from God. And I have thought about that over the years because I'm not sure if that's what I experienced, but whatever it was like a realm when I hit that ego death uh stage that I had mentioned. it was like I was literally in another realm that is not even, I mean, it's not this reality. Like it just was not where us human beings are walking around, shopping at the store, playing Xbox, going to work. Like that's not where I was at. I was somewhere else and I don't know where the hell that was. And that can send chills up your spine sometimes if you think too much about it. Um, but I put my faith in Jesus and I mean I'm a sinner, obviously. I drop F bombs and things like that, but um, you know, I think I don't know. It's conflicting because like I said, it's intense. It's very, very, very intense, and I can't stress that enough. And I don't think it's something you have to take in your life by any stretch. But like I said, I am open to the idea of people researching it and digging into it and whatever. Um, but definitely if you're some dumb kid listening to this, um, if you're gonna not listen to me and take this stuff anyways, you need to you need to really um, I mean, probably test it for something else because nowadays these people are putting, it's coming across the Mexican border, all of these drugs, because our border is wide open in the United States in 2024. And they're trafficking a lot of drugs and things over the Mexican border, and they're putting drugs in there that will kill you. I mean, because they just want your money. They don't want to give you this experience that I'm talking about. I mean, you may put something in your body that's not LSD. Maybe it's fentanyl. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've ever taken fentanyl, but I mean, who knows? Because, like I said, that second one, the second time I did it, I was sold the item uh, as LSD, but I never tested any of it or anything. Um, but yeah, it was just like I said, I didn't get closure from any of the answers or the questions that I wanted answers to, and it just left me with more questions. And I mean, if you're doing it to find God or whatnot, um, just find some real, I mean, authentic Christians and just whip open a Bible and have a good conversation in a private place about God and about, I mean, really the meaningful stuff relating to Jesus, not these freaking, surface level like Christian stuff. I mean, go deep. As deep as you can, and maybe that will scratch that itch and that feeling that you're having, like you got to take a drug to find God. Because, like I said, I kind of got duped into that. I kind of was told like, oh, you're gonna you know meet God, but it really messed up my worldview for like a couple months. Like it took me a little bit to get my head straight again and to figure out what I believed. Um, like I said, again, as a disclaimer, again, this is a fake AI story told in first person. So don't be freaking pulling your britches up, crying, none of that. Okay, don't be targeting me. I'm just the messenger. All right, and that's a little CYA for you. And you know, I'm not a druggie. Okay, I don't do drugs anymore. Don't do substances. I'm not bullshitting you on that. I don't do that. I play Xbox, I read my Bible a little bit, I listen to the Bible on audiobook, you know, and I make money and that's about it. I don't do drugs. So I just wanted this testimony to be out there of what my experiences were like the two times I tried LSD and yeah, just what I experienced because it was crazy. I mean, I can see, like I said, nowadays if I think back to it, I mean, I can see that moon and that choo-choo train and that train going round them tracks and I can get like little glimpses of that experience. and I think it's because it was so traumatic for me. I really do. Um, but yeah, this is like I said, very personal story, and I was very hesitant to share this because I think it's bullshit that employers or whoever like entities, people can be like, oh, you said this, and now you're pee-pee slapped and you're in trouble, or oh, just for talking words, for exercising your freedom of speech, or for choosing to participate in certain things in life. The society's bullshit in a lot of ways. And I'm finding that out more and more as I'm older, because I don't want to talk about, like I told you earlier, hey, Bill, how's the weather? Oh, Chuck, how too? You know, um, I want to get to the nitty gritty. I want to talk about Jesus on the cross. I want to talk about, personal LSD experiences. I want to talk about why society is the way it is, why the 8-hour workday is 8 hours. I want to talk about shit like that. I don't want to talk about, hey, Ted, like, have you tried the new Mexican restaurant down on Main Street? No, I haven't. What do they sell there? And so I guess that's the point of sharing these experiences, because this is my little carved out corner of the internet. And if you guys want to listen to this stuff, I'll be open and honest, and transparent as I can. But like I said, there's got to be a little veil of like some, privacy, because people are not all kind in this world. Um, and I'm still working on that myself. Um, but thank you for listening to this. If anybody I know listens to this and you get upset and ruffled, sorry. It's I mean, it's what happened. It's the truth. And like I said, I mean, take a look at yourself. I think it's silly we can't even talk about these things in today's society. I really think the world has gone awry, and it's very scary because it almost feels like there is no freedom of speech anymore in America. Um, but anyways, God bless you and your family, and thank you for listening. Have a great day.